Welcome to the 5D Academy of Higher Consciousness. I'm Zarathustra, broadcasting from Tulum, Mexico. And so today we're going to be talking about how we can block the noise. The mind, I'm assuming we're talking about the mind chatter, right? Miss Hilde, is that what we're talking about? Or
yes, that's correct.
yeah. And then you mentioned something else you wanted to talk about regarding the frequencies.
Yeah, how to use frequency as a medicine, so to speak, you know?
How do we what?
How can we use the frequency as a medicine? Because when we are rising our vibrations and got a new frequency, that can help us to heal. Right?
Why don't I talk about the first part?
Yeah, do that.
And then then you can explain to me a little bit more what you mean by the second part, and then we'll go from there. How's that?
No problem. That sounds good.
All right. Okay. So obviously, first of all, when basically in a lot of our workshops, we're doing these active meditations. And the active meditations, the reason I do them and I bring them in, they're called active meditations, whatever that we do. And first of all, and I'm going to talk about two parts of this, what we're talking about, is all the stuff like sitting here doing meditation or doing the laughing or crying or jumping up and down or blah, 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 or hoo-hoo, all the meditations we're doing. In reality, they're not meditations. They're just preparation for meditation. They're not the actual meditation. So the actual meditation, it's a natural phenomena that happens on its own accord. And so we're going to come to this one. For now, I'm just going to put this on pause, and I'm going to jump into something else, and then we're going to relate the two together. The active meditation we're doing, and then we say, okay, silence. And then we just come to our hearts. And by the second or third or fourth after meditate, the exercise we've done, as most of you experience with me, then you go into this deep silence. Of course, I don't exactly know what each and everybody's process is, but from just observation or being around the energy, I can tell, like most people in the room, they fall into their heart and they become quiet and they go into this kind of a bliss or love space, in a very quiet space. Is this what you guys have experienced throughout our active meditations when we've been together? Just a question, anyone? Can you hear me? Are we having yeah?
We can hear you. Right. Yes, that's true, and it's happened very rapid, when we're doing the meditations, and then it just died.
Right. So you're going to this quiet place, correct?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So the quiet place is always inside you. It's always here. This particular quiet place that we do the active meditation. So the act that we're doing, jumping up and down, shouting, dancing, all the stuff we're doing Those are like actions. We're doing actions. Those stuff is not the meditation part. The meditation part is when you go into this very deep silence, that place. Okay? Having said that, is this deep silence, how is it being recognized? From where do we notice this? How do we fall into it? Okay? And when we fall into it, it's really groovy and it's amazing because there's an absence of the mind. There's no story going on. And you're not hearing the chatter. You're not hearing the story that I'm not good enough, or I need to practice more, or I need a boyfriend, or what's going to happen in the world in the future. It's just you have bypassed the noise and fallen into this really deep place. So one way of going around with what you suggested, what you brought up, which was an excellent topic, is the student is going to say, well, how do I stay in this quiet place all the time? How do I get rid of the chatter, correct? How do I block the chatter?
Yeah, that's
yeah?
correct. Yeah,
Right,
that's correct.
exactly. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to start looking at this equation from another angle. And when you start looking at it from another angle, because we all, I'm not even saying you, I've done that, I did that for 20, 30 years, is that I want the juice, I want that silence. So I'm focused on that place. That's where I want to get back to. And I want to figure out a way how I can have this all the time throughout the day. But that is like if I say that I want a clear blue sky every single day without any clouds traveling through it. And we all know it's impossible because we're not, or at least as an individual, I'm not evolved enough that I can manipulate the blue sky to stay blue, means no clouds traveling through it ever, or rain or storm. So that's something I can't do. But understanding that part of it, now I'm going to go look at things from another angle. I'm going to observe stuff from another angle. And what I'm going to do is I've already discovered this quiet place. I've already noticed it, that it's within me, it's surrounding me, it dances around me. So, and it's like somebody who already understood that in the absence of the clouds, there's blue sky. So you already know the blue sky is there. So what you do is, in the beginning, till it becomes an automatic understanding, even though intellectually you understand it, is you keep reminding yourself that the blue sky is there. And there's nothing need to be done for it because it's there and it cannot be disturbed. It can be obscured by the clouds, but it cannot not be there because it's there 24/7. So 365 days a year, it's always there. It's never going to go there anywhere else. Same thing is you can use this as a method or a technique by remembering, and it has to be a conscious effort, that you remember the silent space that's already here. Now, this is the trick. So we're trying to get rid of the noise. Okay, what if you simply remembering that the silence is already sitting there and is observing the noise? Just for one moment, you shift to, because the noise is going to be there. Blah, 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 blah. It's like every time you turn on a radio or the TV station or whatever, the TV channel news, they're not going to stop. So this is like wanting that, getting rid of the channel news so they don't broadcast. And that's impossible. So, and that's where everybody gets trapped into it, is that to recognize that in order to hear the noise, there must be an establishment of silence, because the noise is not there all the time. If the noise, the chatter was there all the time, you would have never noticed it, because it would become your only reality, which is the chatter. The reason that we notice the chatter is because there's gaps of silence in between the chatter. There's the chatter, it's silent. There's the chatter, it's silent. So there's breaks. These are the clouds. And there's a break. There's patch of a cloud, nothing here, but you can see the blue sky, and then another patch of the cloud. And the blue sky is in the back. It's already there. So if it was cloudy all the time, 24/7 a day, all of your life, you wouldn't even know the blue sky exists. So instead of bringing my attention on trying to block the chatter or deal with it, I bring my attention on the truth of who I am. I just look at it from just another seat. I get up from where I am. Where I'm sitting is I'm trying to stop the chatter, and it doesn't work. But if I just get up from where I'm sitting and go sit on another side, all I do is I only see the silence, because I changed my seat and the chatter doesn't exist, because my attention is not on it anymore. My attention is went into the blue sky. So in other words, in a very layman's language, in a very simple way, so is you remember the truth of who you are. That the truth of who you are is silence, and it's here all the time. The silence doesn't require any work. You don't have to do anything for it. As if you don't need to do anything for the blue sky. The blue sky is always there. It doesn't matter what happens. There's storms, there aren't storms, whether they're putting chemtrails or they're spraying or whatever the story of the day is, the blue sky is the blue sky. That doesn't change. what happens for us is our attention goes on the chatter and wanting to stop the chatter. Then we get involved with it. But if you start to discipline yourself, that instead of putting your attention on the chatter, you keep remembering the background of the chatter, which is silence, then that becomes a habit. And that's how you go around it, right? Constantly remembering the truth of who you are. Is this, did it make any sense, or I got you more confused?
Can I say something?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hello. What comes to my mind, it is, you're bringing up this, that, you know, the noise is like, oh, I'm a little bit tired, I can hardly think. But what comes up to my mind, it is also when the appearance of scarcity or lack or limitation is present, it's also the, just like the absence of abundance and infinite possibilities. So it's
Okay.
like, so it's like a little bit like the same thing. Like if we're focused on lack and limitation and scarcity or whatever, it's just an appearance. And if we go to another, look from it from another angle, there's like, there is abundance and infinite possibilities available.
Okay.
Because you mentioned this, you know, like sitting and focusing on the noise and wanting the noise to go away. And then it's like getting engaged in the noise and focusing on the noise. Then we go and sit another place and silence appear and there's blue sky. And it's a little bit like the same, like, you know, when we're focusing on limitations or fears, and then we go and sit another place and there is infinite.
Right. But
yeah.
right. Okay. So the what you're saying is partially true, but it doesn't solve the problem. Because whether you're focusing or you're learning yourself not to focus on limitation or fear, and then focusing on abundance, it's a great, you know, concept. It's a great idea. Okay. You're still, your attention is going to be focused on some sort of thoughts or concepts. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. What we want to do is we want to bypass all of that. To bypass all of that is that you bring your attention on that other part of yourself, which 99% of the spiritual seekers, they're not aware of it and they don't do it.
This part that is still, this part that is still.
Yes, this part that it's still doesn't care about limitation story or abundance story. That part is a byproduct of the mind. Whether you're limited or you're not limited, it's a story that the mind creates.
Yes, and it's also like this sense of separation too.
What? What are you saying?
It's also kind of like the sense of being separated.
Separate, you mean in regards to which one? What are we talking about right now exactly?
When we are focusing on the duality, the opposites.
Well, you focus on the duality automatically all the time, all day long.
Yeah, yeah.
That is something that your mind does continuously, and that's something that the stream of consciousness is streaming it through your device to your senses, your body, your mind, this mechanism, which is here right now. Consciousness is, this is the avatar part. This is what it looks like it's real. It's like there's this guy is here and he's living his life or is working on himself or whatever the story is. He's a dad, he's a mom, he's a spiritual teacher, he's a seeker or whatever. That's the projection of consciousness, is projecting in the avatar body. Through this projection of this avatar body, there's a stream of thoughts and actions that runs through it. It's downloading information through it. And simultaneously, the system is large enough that, let's say, we have 9 billion people on the planet, it's doing it through everybody else. Keep streaming the story through each unit. Each device is being streamed through. And it's got its own particular individual story, yet somehow connected to other stories too. So that's what is going on continuously, unless you're sleeping and you're not dreaming. But I'm offering, Hilda asked me, okay, how do I block this noise? How do I get rid of this chatter? Because the chatter sometimes is way too much. And it doesn't matter, again, the narratives could be being focused on abundance or being focused on fear. Those are the narratives. But the chatter part, it's a system that creates this noise continuously. And then the printing machine or broadcasting machine stops. And then it starts again. So, but what is broadcasting doesn't matter. It can broadcast the story of abundance, or it can broadcast the story of fear, conspiracy, the world is screwed up, blah, blah, blah. What's broadcasting doesn't matter, the story of it. What matters is a broadcasting device is doing this all the time. And it's an object because it's happening in the world of inner thoughts and other words, other world and inner world. That's where it's going on, this narrative. So where you want to bring your attention, if you want to stay in the story of it, that which is the theme right now is happening around the world, focusing on having the intentions, I want to be da 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 da, or I'm focusing that, wow, life is full of abundance, or it's limited. It depends, where you're at in your life, but it's still, you're in the story. You're not outside of the story. And it's a nice story, but it's a trap. It looks great. It sounds great, but you're trapped. You're not free. And it can go on all of your life. What you want to do is you want to free yourself from the entire story, whether it's good or bad or whatever it is.
Mm.
You just want to you just want to recognize it, that it's just another story.
Yeah.
And this story doesn't stop. And what happens is you want to bring your awareness into this part, because the story is perpetuates for there's pockets of different groups of people that they feel connected to each other. Let's say your clan, your family, or mine, whatever, you have a group of friends or family, they're into football, and they're into World Cup and European football, and they're very much into it. So everybody talks about it, they're in that.
Yeah.
There are groups of people that they're into the story of, let's say, Mother Earth, and we need to save the earth, and we need to save the planet and the animals, and evil corporations are destroying it. And this group, they're posting on Facebook or whatever, and they feel connected to each other because of this particular narrative of the story. Then there's, the group of whomever, they're following their guru, and whatever is the teaching of the guru, or the cults or spiritual groups, that now the same thing is happening. Everybody has this common thing, and they're sharing it, and they feel this connection with each other because they have this common story with one another. But it's still a story, and it is a trap. It's a spiritual story. It's beautiful. It's great. Let's say you're an Earth Mama, and you go to rainbow gathering, or you're going to events, and you're doing sage and rattles, and you're saving the land, and you're continuously going to these events around the world, in the desert or in the forest or whatever, and this group of people come together, they're singing, they're praying for the world, and they're holding their space, and everyone feels very righteous. Everybody feels like they're really helping. It's still an illusion.
Mm. Mm.
And
Yeah.
it is a trap.
Mm.
It's a trap because this story can only exist by a group of people who have a common point of view of a story that is happening in the world of manifestation.
Mm.
And the more importance you give to it, the more you dive into it, and the more real it becomes.
Yeah.
But it's not liberation.
Yeah.
You're not becoming free. So the key is, what is the goal? Is you want to become completely free? Is that what you really want? And you're really focused on that one? to free yourself from this cycle of whether it's a karmic cycle or life and death or the story of humankind, and really go into the absolute space of stillness and silence, and that place which is not, it's timeless, or you're really getting juiced up by the story and you're loving it, which you're always going to find groups and people who are going to be supporting this with you. That's something at one point you need to become aware of it in order to go to the next level, which not too many people do, because this other place, you have a lot of people with you that are supporting it. And it's very comfortable and cush. This other level, there are not going to be many people. There's just going to maybe a very, very small number of people that are got to a place to break out of it and go there. So there's not going to be a lot of support as far as humans. That's why it is a lonely path, and not too many people can get to it. That's where a lot of us need someone, some awakened guy or girl, woman, or what, somebody who went through this. And they somehow through the grace of God, they got free from the story. And then they're just telling you where to put your steps. Where's the way? Because you can stray away out of it very easily. Very easily. It's very, very easy to get caught, especially right now with all the noises going on, all the stories happening, to get caught into the stories of the dramas of the world. It's very easy to get caught into it. Very, very, just like this. And then you're back into the matrix, because when you go back into this place of really believing that this whole thing is real. But none of it is real. And of course, it's hard to understand it or get it, because first you have to find out what is real. And discover that. Once you discover what is real, then anything that's because what is real doesn't change. The space I'm talking about, or I operate from, or the operation of this silent stillness is happening, that space is not something that comes or goes, and it's not even a place of experience. Because experiences, they're also temporary, they come and go. This place is 100% always here. For example, like air. Do you ever have to concern yourself or think about breathing because there's not enough air in your apartment, or there's not enough air in Frankfurt or in Gothenburg? It's something you never ever even think about. Nobody thinks about it. It's just always here. The only time we're going to think about air is, let's say I'm in the ocean or in the water and something happened, I'm about to choke. Or maybe I'm isolated, I'm in an elevator who got stuck, or I'm somewhere that somehow something happened, someone's strangling me, or I'm sick, or I'm in a tight car, or something happened, I can't breathe. And that's the only time that suddenly I notice, like, the topic of the air. But the rest of the time, from the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, you don't even think about it for not even a second in your life. Because it's always available and it's always here. And naturally, we do talk about the quality of the air. Oh, it's very polluted. Los Angeles is very polluted. Mexico City is very polluted. Or we can go to the stories like, okay, they're spraying, if you want to go to those stories, blah, blah, blah. Which a lot of them could be true. But naturally waking up in the morning till the time throughout the day, breathing air is, you don't think about it. You don't spend any time on it. The space I'm talking about of the absolute silence, which is the truth of who we are, is the same thing. It's here. And it's here all the time. Because it's here all the time, and we grew up with it from the time we were born, and we're always in it, we don't notice it until the teacher or a few who got it start pointing it out to us. Or through some magic of life, we notice it. Where we are noticing is the objects of the mind, the stories of the mind, our own stories. And that's where we get caught. And that's not going to let you become liberated. It just keeps you in the loop. And the interesting part of it is, again, it requires a certain amount of attentiveness to it. Because what's interesting is those active meditations that we do, all the work we do. And then, we've seen it in our workshops, our groups, that when we're together, the times like, okay, let's say I come and sit down and I go into silence. And we're playing some groovy music and everybody else goes into the silence, goes into that place. That place, our minds projecting it that, oh, I went to this workshop with Zarathustra, or I went to see this other teacher. They have powerful Shakti or energy, and the mind's still projecting it like it's coming from somewhere else.
Mm. Yeah.
It's not coming from anywhere else. It's just here all the time. And you don't even have to do anything for it. as if you don't have to do anything about air, because it's always here. What you can do is you can notice it. That is actually effortless and doesn't require any work. And the mind doesn't like that, because you have to work. You gotta be focused on abundance, or you gotta work on your emotional stories, and you gotta which they're secondary. They're in a different category. They're not in that category. And it will take you out of what is, brings your attention to something else. Ms. Hilda, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you for telling us. And I think that we are so used to struggle, We just have to work and train and exercise to go to the silent place, but we just have to sit. Just
Yeah,
be aware.
the silent place is here all the time. You can't get out of it. It's
No.
impossible.
And I'm so grateful that you taught me that, because my life has totally changed, both mentally in my body too. So I'm so grateful.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
Can I say something?
Yes, sure. Who's this?
Susanna.
Hi, Susanna.
I experienced at first, it was so fine to hear these words. I experienced all this. We had lesser than 100 meters away from here a big discounter. And his machines and apparatus and cool and Hetman, climber apparatus are so loud, 24 hours a day, every day, a year, since 10 years. And in years before, I get burned out because of this. I can't sleep. This was my biggest teacher since so many years to go over this noise in learning to be more aware and come more in my consciousness and in my heart. And this is the place in me. And since I could practice this better and better, this noise is shitty. It doesn't interest me. It's still here, but it doesn't hurt me. It's only there. It's like a line between this discounter and me, and I cut the line, and it's absolutely separated from me, my heart, my body, and my soul.
Right, great.
And that's the example. So this was really a great teacher.
Yeah.
And I tried to to love this noise. That okay, you taught me. I thank you for teaching me to find me, that I can feel me better and come more in my heart. And then I bless this noise. And the result was I was full of love.
Yeah. The degree of the noise goes up and down, depending on what's going on in where you're at. But I highly recommend to those of you really committed is one, and you want practice, you want to do something, you feel like you need to do something for this. if that's the case, if that's what anyone feels, is get into a habit. I know it's very attentive. This is like, you know, again, this is for someone who says, well, what can I do? I need to do something. It's too busy or whatever. It's killing me. Is that the I, me, I am Zarathustra, I am a person. This me and this whole concept of me that has to do something in this life. And the experiences that are this, let's just wait for one moment. Okay. And can you hear me, or are you hearing the dogs, or can you hear me fine?
We hear you.
We hear you and don't hear any dog.
Only you.
Right. So before awakening, the events that do happen in your life, they're personal. Something is happening to you. Somebody stole your laptop from your car, you got a ticket, you went to the airport and this happens. The city, the government, the environment, they're doing something wrong. Your mother said something you didn't like, your family, or something happened to you, or your best friend died, or you went had surgery and lost a finger, or you lost your partner. When bad things happen to you in your life, the thing is there. Later, when you wake up to the truth of who you are, you realize these events are not personal. It's impersonal.
Mm.
The events that are happening in the world, they're not happening to a person. They're simply images and expressions of consciousness,
Yeah.
which is experiencing itself and expressing itself in each moment of life. It just appears and disappears. But they're not happening to anybody. So what happens is, since I think I'm separated and I'm somebody, and this is my life, and I need to be responsible for it, and I have all the senses, and everybody else around me in the world feels the same way. So when something bad happens to me, it's like it's happening to me.
Mm.
Bad luck, or life doesn't like me, or whatever, or everyone lies, I'm a victim, everybody cheats, you can't trust these people, that is happening to you. But when you pop and you wake up to the story, you realize the events are not happening to anyone. It's just events that are happening. The reason they feel personal is because there's somebody there who thinks that is separated from the story. So they're taking it personally. But once you get rid of that person who thinks is separated, then what happens is it becomes clear, like, they're not happening to me, they're just happening. And they're simultaneously happening to everybody else. A different narrative is happening, but it's happening to every single person on the planet. but none of it is personal. And then you start to see the joke. You start to realize, because look, I can sit down and right now go into this story with you or with people. Every once in a while, somebody contacts me or I meet someone somewhere and they're saying, this is a very strong time, isn't it? So many of us are going through this transformation or da 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 da. And on January 25th, there was this big planetary alignment, and something really big is going to happen. You're familiar. You know what I'm talking about? That stories in spiritual community with other people, when you sit and you talk to, you hear those stories. Or if people are not in spiritual world, they can sit down and say like, wow, this is a very, very tough time in the planet with all the stuff is happening, da da da, and blah, 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 the story. Well, okay, so, but if you compare right now to 1940 in Europe, this is like nothing. It's a piece of cake. What was going on in 1940 in comparison to what's happening right now? Right? This is like nothing. So, or let's say this is during the Vietnam War and you're very involved in it, or collapse of Soviet Union, the wall comes down, or later on, let's say there's stories between I don't know, terrorism and da 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 da. This story, now Donald Trump has come and says he wants to take Canada and he wants to take the Panama Canal. And what's going to happen? Oh my God. The story is always going to be there of some kind. The COVID story, whether it's a scam and they created it or they didn't, da 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 da. All of these things, or we're being manipulated, or we're being assembled to become AIs, or we're being poisoned, and a lot of it in the relative reality. In the world of relative, it's true. It's not like it's not true. It's not like Monsanto hasn't genetically engineered a lot of stuff and poisoning people. It's not like we're not being sprayed. It's not like COVID was really real. It's not like there's evil corporations and forces that they want to dominate or turn human beings into slaves and stuff like that. Those are all true. And there's also avatars like Amaji, Mamritananda Mai, divine beings that are absolutely untouchable by anything. There's masters like Ramana Maharishi or some hidden masters somewhere that, or loving, caring people on the planet, powerful healers, Mother Teresa's, and a lot of people who their hearts open and are very loving and giving and helping. We have both things happening simultaneously. But again, all of it is happening in the relative reality, not in the absolute reality. And all of it is, again, is impersonal. The evil corporation is created by the same consciousness and is getting the stream of information of that particular behavior through the same source as someone very loving and caring, great healer, great guru, great mother, great person, humanitarian, is the same source is feeding these people too.
Yeah.
That's what you want to recognize.
Yeah.
Then you can get out of the duality. Otherwise, you're going to stay in the story, which it's still fine, but you're still in the story. The story is going to bring suffering because the mind is there. And the mind is every day is going to come up with a brand new trick for you. It's got a bag full of tricks. That's not liberation. And I wasn't interested in that. When I realized what's going on, I wanted to become liberated. That's what I wanted. I wanted to become free.
You know, I saw a video with Dalai Lama. It was many years ago. And then there was a woman who asked, why are there so much suffering in the world? And then he answered, it is because one, you are too self-centered. Two, you believe what is happening is real. And I remember when I heard that, I was like, what does he mean? I can get the first part kind of like being too self-centered, but what about this believing what is happening is real? But then I have looked into it and it is really true. It's really true. It's really true. It's true.
Right.
For me, it's true. When I get too self-centered, I suffer. When I believe that what appears is real, then I start to suffer because I cannot keep it, or I'm afraid I will lose it, or it's painful, or it's not what I want it to be different, and blah, blah, blah. And it's shifting all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
The non.
It's the same that you're saying. Yeah, it's the same you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the non-duality teachings.
Yeah.
The Advaita Vedanta, the non-duality teaching, or let's say emerging into fifth dimensional consciousness, which is a more modern word of the same concept, is to raise above the duality, to raise above the good and the bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
To rise above it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to be in this story all the time that the two forces are fighting each other.
Yeah.
Which is in the relative reality, it's true.
Yeah.
But in the absolute reality, there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is once you notice this, you can check it for yourself at any moment. At any moment you just sit and you're not thinking, there's nothing going on. The rest of it is because the same thing, listen, like we're concerned about, we talk about, is like, let's say your dad, you may not give a shit about any of this. Or some guy or somebody who owns a bakery down the street, their focus maybe is on their business and the quality of bread and everything, and they're into raising family and, their kids getting married and going to college, and, that's their world of raising their family. And they're not interested in any of these stories. So then, where are these stories then? And as you mentioned it's only when we take it as if it's personal, then it becomes real.
Yeah. And I meet so many people who say, "Oh, I'm such a bad creator." Like this, and it is
Manifested, right?
Yeah.
That's another. I hear that all the time here in
Yeah.
Tulum. That's another story. It's
and it is like and
I'm a bad creator. It means I can manipulate life to get what I want.
yeah,
That's all it is. Because if you really look at it, you see, like, I don't care how spiritual we are, it's still completely selfish. And you cannot not be selfish because you cannot have anyone else's experience. And it's not even your fault that you're self-centered, because this is your program to be self-centered. The most maybe you do is you're really concerned about your son, and you're really trying to put your son first. But the rest of the time, if you wake up, from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed, the mechanism is always self-preserving and is self-processing, and it's about itself. It's not really worried about other people. And that's not like your fault or my fault or someone else's fault. That's just the way they've designed it, that it makes it look like, you always think you're the only person. And all of your attention, all of your life is just like on yourself, like every other people on the planet. And all the experiences that they happen, they are happening to you. So you don't have any evidence or reasons not to believe and think or feel this way, because this is how they brought you up from the day first, with everything supporting it. Any other questions, my beloved? So nice seeing you all, even though I don't have your, I can go on my screen and see everyone, but anyway, it's nice being together. Magical moments that they happen. None of it can be taken for granted, that it's always going to be happening again and again. It's definitely here right now in this connection and this love. And it's very precious. All right, my beloveds. Looking forward to connecting with you next week. Any last thing anyone has to say before we say goodbye?
I just want to say that I feel we are so blessed that we can sit here every week and listening to you and talk to each other. So I'm so grateful for this group, you know, the Academy. And I've been following the Academy for 11 years or something, you know, from the start. So I'm so grateful that you are still doing it for us. So thank you so much.
You are welcome. You're welcome. And the feeling is mutual. I feel equally blessed to still being in a position that I can do it. So
And here is Eva, and I just would like to say the same and love to all of you. Thank you.
And I will bless all. May God be with you with every breath you do.
You're making a big difference, you know?
well, I appreciate it.
Thank you for being now, exactly now. In the right time, on the right place. Mwah.
We'll see you soon. Namaste.
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 We love you.
Yes.
I love you too.
I love you all.
Bye.